Alright folks, Mizzo here. So I guess this is what all the cool millennials do, is they hold the camera out and video their stuff while they're taking video of themselves. But I'm neither cool nor a millennial, so I'm not going to do that. So you guys get to look at the cool stuff here instead. So we've been looking for an update on the Russian Alfa SLA. So here she is. What's been done is all the flight controls are covered. We have flaps and ailerons, elevators and rudder, and the horizontal stabilizers are painted. So that's cool. We got our new paint shed here at the hangar, so I don't have to tie up our big paint booth for painting airplanes to paint the flight controls. That is the shed right over there next to the big hangar. So we do painting of small stuff in there. So let's see. So what have we done? We covered the flight controls over the wintertime, and now we got the wings stripped. So this thing has some cool structure. I was pretty excited to see a lot of stuff is primed and alodined, so there is zero corrosion inside this wing, which is fantastic. It's a pretty neat structure, and it's really cool how the thing is covered. So the fabric is stitched to the flight control, or to the controls, or to the wing, instead of stitched around the rib. The fabric is laced through these holes, up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, all the way to the end, and then stitched back, and then it's tied one knot at the back. So I have the rudder off the wrecked one here, and we'll get to that in a second. The rudder, you can see on the inside how the fabric is stitched here. Let's see, there we go. Yeah, you can kind of make that out. Maybe that one's a little easier. Yeah, there we go. So that's kind of cool. Parts plane. So, we got the gas tank, and working on that, making new fuel gauges. We'll get to that in a minute too. But I just want to kind of show the structure of it. So everything is cables to bell cranks to push rods. So the aileron has a cable that goes to a bell crank up front up here. If the camera can expose that. There's a bell crank there. And then that's a push rod back to the aileron. I recently ripped the fabric off these and stripped the leading edges as well, so to get it ready for paint. And then the fuselage is the same way. The flight control stick goes to a torque tube in the center, and then it's torque tube to cables that run down the length of the fuselage, just like a standard flight plane. Rudder pedals the same. Got your rudder pedals here. And I love how everything is positive. Everything's so positive. The stops on it. So you got your stops here. You know, your fuel shut off. That's on. That's off, which is interesting. Actually, forward is off and out is on for the fuel. You have your primer here. Tail wheel lock is right here. And then the rudder control is the bell crank here with a push rod back to the rudder. And the elevator is cable operated to this bell crank inside. And the elevator balance weight's in there. That swings up and down inside the tail, right in here. And then this is where the elevator hooks up, right here, where it moves up and down with the stick. Just, the horn comes down for the elevator, and one bolt goes through everything there. And then these huge mounts. Some Cessnas have smaller mounts on their wings than these here. And there's a strut that comes from here up to the horizontal stabilizer. And a beefy locking tail wheel. Oh yeah, the wheels. So the wheels and brakes are pretty cool, but they're going away. So this is the Russian wheel. They're tiny little things for this airplane. Kind of a tiny little wheel on there and tire. So they're going to go away. The brakes are kind of neat how the calipers work, but they're going to go away too. We've got new axles to machine and install a set of Cleveland 606s or 6-inch wheels with 850 by 6 smooth kind of bush tires. So this thing's kind of coming along slow, the fuselage, because I've been working on the flight controls. But it's very well built, no corrosion. The flap lever's pretty cool. That's up here. So that's flap down, flaps up. There's only one stop, but I actually have another cam where the handle pin will go into to give it a 10-degree position and then a full position. Door pins for the door, for removable doors. And they are over here. Kind of cool, just big bubbles. So those are the doors, along with a rect aileron. Wing struts are just round tubes, pretty draggy, so they're going to get a streamlining treatment. And then all the important stuff for it. So everything's here, firewall aft, so I have to put the engine in and build firewall forward up. So this actually has a mount for a Lycoming 320 up on the front. Which is what this is going to be getting. It had a 4-cylinder inline LOM engine on it, which I guess will go out to the wrecked one. This is the parts donor if we need it. This has the cowling for the inline engine on it yet. Kind of neat, but so that was 110 horse or supercharged to 140 for 5 minutes. So you can see the parts donor in here. This thing had a little accident, I guess. I only got the fuselage for this with my package deal. But the cool thing about this one is it's got this bird on the tail. And unfortunately I don't have the other half of them because the fabric cut off that side of the rudder. But we were trying to figure this out. This is the cowl door. And that's Gazeltka, which is a Russian brand of vodka. So got to find some of that. So when this thing's all done, that's why you can see the horizontal stabilizers white. They're done. I decided that this airplane is going to be white with white stripes and white trim because after masking and painting this thing, I have no desire to trim stripe stuff out. So if anything, maybe over time it'll get maybe a Arctic camouflage vinyl wrap. We'll see. But it's going to be white for a while. Currently working on the fuel tanks. So the gauge goes down in here. It's just a sight tube with a float and a ball. So over here we have this thing. The float goes on up here where these threads are. This part mounts in the tank, and then this little red thing goes up and down in a glass, and the glass comes down through here, and then that red thing moves up and down in here, and then the gallons are written on here, how much is left in the wing. So that plug for micro tool. Plug for micro tool is down at micro tool, getting the inside of the to board out, so that the board out and polish, I should say, so that the you'd be able to see the tube inside, or the little red ball inside there going up and down. So, and the cool thing, before I stripped it, on the outside of that fairing was written the gallons that you'd read when the airplane was in 3-point position on the ground, and then on the inside of the fairing here was written how many gallons were in flight level, so you could read it in flight. It's kind of neat. So I guess that's where we're at with this thing. It's kind of a neat airplane. This there's a step back here because this hatch opens, so this thing swings all the way up so you can get in the back. Actually, let me see if I can pop that. Pop that. guy lifts up. You got this huge opening in the back to get in here. That's where the camping gear goes. Dogs, skis, cows, I guess whatever you want to transport. The hinging stuff is pretty neat. They're just bearings at the 3 points, and then they're pins that go down through all 3, and the bottom one is threaded with a nut, so the rudder just drops on, and you put one nut on the bottom to hold it on. Elevator trim, got your 2 cables that come back to the trim. Inside the little turtle deck there is a pulley with a electric actuator that moves it up and down for elevator trim. So it runs off the hat switch on the stick. And that's about where we're at. I can try to leave everything as much original as possible because there's some cool Russian lettering on some of the panel stuff. Oh, I don't know if we can dig all that stuff out for right now. That'll be for the next update, I suppose. So, all right, that's it. You've seen enough of me.